everyone, welcome to my channel. So my name is Jocelyn and I started this channel called KindMovement, which I hope to eventually make into a nonprofit. So KindMovement is an attempt to get resources out there, free resources for people who have just undergone traumatic experiences, to bridge the gap between going through trauma and getting access to resources for PTSD. So what inspired me to do this is that I recently, within the last 2 years, I underwent a series of events that significantly traumatized me and changed my personality in ways that I didn't quite expect, and was drastically shocked by. What was difficult was that as the events occurred, being somebody who was studying psychology and has been a psych nerd since I was 12, I was very aware of the symptoms of PTSD. And when I started experiencing trauma, I was watching myself experiencing the early stages of PTSD from everything I read, from Peter Levine's work, I always get his name wrong, but the man who wrote The Body Keeps Score. I will link it below. And in reading all of this, I recognized that I was undergoing PTSD. And in undergoing PTSD, I recognize that there are certain things that you can do as soon as possible in order to mitigate the impacts of trauma. And so I attempted to do them, and then my struggles occurred when I was met with resistance from the institution, in part because I didn't want to acknowledge that traumatic things could happen within the institution because of what that could mean in terms of legal threats. And at the end of the day, it's like I was just a person going through trauma. I wanted it dealt with so that I could move on with my life and continue with my studies. So KindMovement, hopefully, will attenuate that gap in 3 ways. So number one, by providing free online resources for people who have undergone trauma. So this includes access to quick meditations that you can do, some of which are visual, some of which are auditory, that can be kind of taken anywhere with you, that are short and accessible, with a variety of different themes, ideas, colors, in attempts to give enough diversity so that if you do know you have certain triggers, you can find other formats that won't trigger you. So a good example is, like, for some people with chronic pain, anything that requires kind of connecting in with your body can reintroduce them to pain. And that pain often flares up during traumatic incidences. And when you think about your body and you are experiencing pain, it can re-trigger the PTSD. So we want to have a variety of different materials out there so that people can kind of cherry pick what works for them. Then, besides providing resources that can help with PTSD, we want to be able to educate the population on systemic issues that perpetuate and worsen incidences of PTSD. Because so often, and it's something that we don't actually talk about, is that PTSD can also be linked to cultural resilience. So cultural resilience is what occurs when a culture has practices that helps to attenuate trauma. So it becomes very victim blamey to put the PTSD weight of the diagnosis or the experience on the individual, because not everybody who undergoes trauma does develop PTSD, or at least they don't develop PTSD in a way that might be clinically recognized. So all of that to say is our first thing that we will be doing is getting resources to the people who need them. Second thing is that I want to provide education. And then the third and final step would be providing advocacy work. So being able to do advocacy work and education towards institutions that perpetuate harm and trauma, to help bring that down a little bit. So that is my channel. That is KindMovement. And I look forward to making my first educational videos.